Dragan is about to answer when he realizes that, wherever it's going, whatever task it is engaged with, there's little difference between him and the dog. They are both only trying to survive. Unlike the men on the hills who still make a distinction between humans and dogs, Dragan now sees little difference. He felt the same amount of concern for the dog when it was in the sniper's line of fire as he did for the 40 or 50 people who have crossed this intersection since he's been here. Amina's looking at him, waiting for an answer to a question. What do any of us have to go that's so urgent, he says, hoping this will end the discussion. He doesn't want to think about the dog anymore. He wonders how long he's been here waiting to cross. Perhaps 3/4 of an hour. Has this time waiting increased or decreased his chances of making it? Why did the Sarajevan cross the road, he asks Amina. She shakes her head and takes her hands out of her pocket and brushes her hair out of her face. That's a good question. To get to the other side, he answers. Amina groans because it's a really bad joke. Dragan doesn't care. He hasn't told a joke in months. It feels good, even if the joke is awful. I think, she says, still laughing, it's time for the Sarajevan to act like a chicken. If I go now, I might be able to make it back in time to hear the cellist. Dragan stops laughing. She's right. They've been here long enough. I'll go with you, he says. Amina nods and they move towards the street with her in front, Dragan following. When they're almost at the end of the boxcar at the spot where they will have to run, Dragan begins to lose his nerve. His hands sweat and then his back and feet. He feels short of breath. He reaches out and places his hand on Amina's shoulder, stopping her. I can't yet, he says. I'm not ready. Amina nods. Do you want me to wait with you? He does, but he doesn't want to tell her this. I'm okay, he says. I'm not in any special hurry. She looks at him, her face tense, and he wonders what she's going to decide to stay with him despite his reassurances. Give Raza my love, she says, leaning in and hugging him. She feels warm and substantial, much larger than when he hugged her only a short time ago. She has become real again. She is the person he once knew, affected by the war, changed, but the woman he knew is still there. She hasn't been covered in gray that colors the streets. It was a big thing for Dragan, right? He was afraid that everyone he knew was never going to be recognizable. But once he has talked to him, he realized that she is. He wonders why he hasn't seen this before and wonders how much else he hasn't seen. 2 people are crossing from the other side, a man and a woman. The man is about halfway through the intersection. The woman is just beginning. The woman's hair is tied back with a black scarf. The man wears a brown hat with a peak, a type of hat Dragan has never owned, but has always thought looked good. It's the sort of hat a detective might wear, he thinks. Amina steps out onto the street. She begins to accelerate into a run, but it seems to Dragan that she slows down. The whole world has become muddled, sticky, like it's under water. The blue wool of Amina's coat is a blur, and Dragan feels tired. He could sleep for days. A young man comes up beside Dragan, gets ready to cross. He hesitates for only an instant, taking one deep breath and moving forward. As he steps into the street, Amina is thrown to the side with a violent surge, and the sound of gunfire punches through silence. The man in the hat stops for an instant and then runs towards Dragan. The woman turns back, hoping to retreat the way she came. Amina lies still, not moving. Dragan can't see where she's been hit, if she's alive or not. Beside him, half a dozen or so people who are in the vicinity rush ahead, towards the edge of the boxcar, their eyes on the street. A few shout to those in the sniper's line of fire, yelling them to run, and other obvious ideas. The young man moves forwards towards Amina. He should be turning back, Dragan thinks. He's going the wrong way. Then Dragan understands what he's doing. He wants to go with the man to help him and see if Amina can be saved, but his feet don't move. Around him, everyone is alive with a frenzied energy, but he hasn't stirred an inch. The young man and the man in the hat reach Amina at the same time, just as the woman makes it to safety. Dragan sees the people on the opposite side of the street rush to her to see if she's all right, though it's clear she is. The young man bends down and puts his arms around Amina. The man in the hat keeps running, doesn't stop. The young man looks up in disbelief as he goes by, shouts out to him for help. If he hears, the man in the hat gives no indication. Just as he's about to reach the safety of the boxcar, there's another shot. The man's hat flies off of his head and lands at Dragan's feet. Dragan stares down at the hat, which has landed upside down on the pavement. He can see from the label that was made in Vienna. He looks ahead. The hat's owner is lying on his stomach. Around him, people realize that the sniper is able to fire far closer to the edge of the boxcar than they'd thought. They all duck down, all of them except Dragan, and he's reminded the way of a flock of birds can turn in unison while in flight, as though programmed. Then a hand grabs at him. He understands he's in danger and gets down on the ground with the others. They move back, staying as low as they can until they're away from the street, about 3 meters from the man who is no longer having a hat. The young man has picked Amina up, and Dragan sees she's alive. One of her arms hangs down, her sleeve soaked in blood, but her eyes are open and her good hand holds tight around the shoulder of her rescuer. A bullet strikes the pavement a few feet in front of them. The young man doesn't react, continues undaunted, slow and awkward, and Dragan doesn't think he's going to make it. As they pass the hatless man, who Dragan assumes is dead, a hand reaches up to them, weak and imploring. The hatless man is somehow still alive, though he's unable to move. The young man ignores him, keeps moving. Amina looks down at him, says nothing, then looks away. So both of them have made a decision not to help the man who didn't help them, right? They have other things to do, like keeping Amina alive. Dragan tries to count the seconds since the sniper last fired, tries to figure out how much more time they have before the next bullet comes. He doesn't know how long it's been, however, and has no idea how long it will take for the sniper to aim and fire again. Amina and the young man are 2 meters from him, and then one, and then they're there. They tumble to the ground behind him, and he hears Amina cry out. Dragan doesn't turn around. He can't look away from the street, where the hatless man is trying to crawl, a centimeter at a time, to safety. There is an expanding smear of blood surrounding him, and although Dragan knows the street around him is full of noise, he doesn't hear a sound. He counts under his breath, hears slow numbers tick in his own voice. When he gets to 8, the hatless man's head bursts, the top of his skull evaporating in a fine red drizzle, punctuated by the thunderclap of a rifle echoing down the hill. Dragan looks down and sees that the hat is in his hands. He doesn't remember picking it up, has no idea why he'd do such a thing. He looks at the hat, runs his thumb along the brim, and then leans down and sets it on the asphalt before turning to Amina.